Good morning. I'm Madi Kuenzli. As a few of you may know, I'm something of an extrovert. Big news, I know. But what may not be quite as obvious is that I'm a very private person. So when Mr. Renshaw told me that I needed to select a topic for my speech that was personal, I was not pleased, to say the least. I knew that it was going to be difficult for me, but in the spirit of the holiday season, I decided to share with you all something personal about myself by talking about something near and dear to me: my personal independence. My family values independence above all else. My mother, from the time that I could exercise choice, decreed that I would make my own decisions. Since the age of 3, I have dressed myself and done my own hair. I did not get to dress myself in that my mother would hold up 2 outfits and say, "Choose," but rather she would say, "Madison, go get dressed," and I did. I would come out wearing whatever I pleased. What I wore always changed, and for the most part was fairly adequate. But what did not change was the sense of empowerment and confidence that I had in being allowed to make my own choices, even seemingly minor ones. I was given power over myself and my life. From there, my mother had me making her lunch and mine. I was given the opportunity to independently make my own meals or even family meals. But I often chose to make those meals with my mother, father, or grandmother. Not for the help I would receive, you see. I was perfectly capable of doing those tasks by myself. However, it was for the company and conversation. You may be thinking, "Oh, well, sweetie, that's what they wanted you to think as a small child," but really you were helped along as everyone else was. But in my family, that's simply not correct. Independence was paramount to my grandparents and therefore to my family when I was young, and that has remained true to today. As I grew older, my mother would tell me to do more and more on my own. It gave me confidence, boosted my competency and understanding of the world around me, and most importantly, made me my own person. I was given this opportunity to be whomever I wanted to be. I was allowed a luxury that many children, and more tragically many adults, never have and perhaps never will be given: power over my own self and future. If I was at the ranch and wanted to go see Papa, my grandfather, at the barn, my mother would tell me, "Walk on up there," and walk I would. At the age of 4 or 5, I would leave the safety of my mother's sight for a quarter of a mile, if you took the direct route. Who knew how long the route I took actually was? I would venture out into the unknown on my adventures in the wilds at the Henrietta Ranch, where my imagination sometimes would run wild, and to say the least, and I would convince myself that the boogers, as my grandmother called the no-see-ums and wild animals, would come out to get me, and I would keep walking. Despite the dangers I believed to be lurking just waiting to get me, I would make it to the safety of my grandfather's barn, and we'd sit for hours and create in his hangar. After the evening would draw to a close, we'd hop in the old pickup truck, and we'd drive back to the underground house. I would feel so accomplished because I had achieved my endeavors of the day, all by myself. From the very start of my life, my family has trusted me to handle pretty much anything. At age 7, I started driving 4-wheelers, 5-wheelers, and mules. I was trusted not to be stupid, and for the most part, I wasn't. I was trusted and given privileges, which helped me to grow. This independence was something that every Cullum and Kuenzli had been given and would continue to give. And this continues to define who I am, this independence. Sometimes, oftentimes, I felt and still feel as though perhaps I was given too much independence because I had to solve all of my problems on my own. I'm no stranger to the feeling that the weight of the worlds were on my shoulder, or to the feeling that I was completely alone in all my struggles. I had to figure out solutions to my own problems without expecting someone to help me. Sure, I had examples to follow, but no directions were explicitly stated for me, no matter how much I wish that had been the case. Another problem I face with my independence is that I feel as though I'm constantly living within a box, living within boundaries designed and set in place by society to keep me from being different. I am expected to do as I'm told, to do all of my work, to act this way, to dress that way, to think this way. And for the most part, I dance in and out of the box defined by society, remaining just inside the norm to be accepted and taken seriously sometimes. The expectations, however, that I refuse to concede to be boxed in about are my opinions and ideas. My grandparents showed me that it was imperative to be independent from others, and that the most important aspect of independence is trust. They trusted me with much, but the most meaningful thing I was trusted to come up with on my own were my reactions to the inevitable and with accepting others' choices on all matters. They held back nothing about death or harder truths because it could have been painful for me to hear, but rather they trusted me to understand. Something that they made sure that I understood, and that many people do not seem to want to believe, is that independence does not exclude community. Just because you can do something on your own does not necessarily mean that you should. They instilled in me this idea of balance and secured my resolve and my independence. Because of the lessons they taught me, I am more likely to bring others along on my journey because I've been making my own path for so very long. As I got older, the amount of independence awarded to me continued to grow, and with it, my opinions and individual views on matters. I've always been sure of what I do and do not believe in, and it's always been of my choosing. My family allowed for me to be the only one to define my beliefs. I was given the choice to decide if I believed in an all-powerful being or not. I was allowed the freedom to express my opinions and to argue their validity without fear of being struck down or punished for my alternative thinking. Now at this point, no doubt, many of you are either questioning my family's parenting competency or my sanity, and that's not surprising. I understand that this is not the norm. What you must understand, though, is that I was not raised like the majority of others. Now, because I'm me, I had to work in something about literature. Most of you had to see that coming from a mile away. But we should all be wary of dismissing our young ones' ideas, because we saw how well that worked out for Dr. Frankenstein's father. Had he not been so quick to dismiss and damn his ideas and creativity of his son, Dr. Frankenstein very likely would not have created the monster who committed so many ills. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if you say no to a child's ideas that they could fly if only they took that bedsheet to the top of the roof and jumped off, that you're going to create a vindictive sociopath. I'm instead trying to explain to you that just because a child says something does not mean that because it's unreasonable or infeasible that you should just completely dismiss it. So I implore you all, as we go our separate ways, to see what breaking away from the norm may do, and where grabbing your makeshift bedsheet glider may take you. Thank you.